Welcome everyone to Automate with Dave, and today we are here with a new chapter, Blueprism tutorials, add fields to collection. A very important thing in any automation use case is to carry forward the existing data, and as we go in the process, we might need to add the data or we might need to modify the same data. So this is a particular thing that we usually see in almost all of our processes. So in Blueprism we have a functionality called as collections. So we can carry multiple type of data in that single entity. So the first question that comes into our mind is, what exactly is a collection? So as you can see in the screenshot, this is how a collection looks like. So a collection is a two-dimensional structure that is similar to a data table, and it can hold heterogeneous values within it. It means it can hold multiple type of data. So how can we ensure that the data keeps on getting added? Well, if you think about it, technically there are two ways of it. One, we can keep adding rows if we have the same type of data within it, or we can add columns if new type of data needs to be introduced. So in Blueprism we have already a functionality for adding rows, that is the add rows action that is present in the internal collection active business object. But what if we need to add a new column or field perhaps? Well, if you see about it, in Blueprism, the one thing is we don't have any such action to add a field. So a workaround that many people do is to merge collections with separate columns that can be created at a design time. Let's see with a use case. Let's say we have a table with two columns called as name and age. And as per our process going ahead, let's say we have to calculate the marks and add that field to this table. So what we can do is, if you see, there are two tables called as name and age, and then there is again one more table called as name plus marks. So here the name will be the names corresponding in both the tables will have those particular age and marks joined. So it is similar to a table join that you do. So name here will be the common column based on which we will be merging or joining these two tables. So now if you see here, this is the merge collection that we have in Blueprism. So this action is present in the collection manipulation VBO, and through this we can merge the two collections. But what if there is a requirement that is based on a form data which can be dynamic in nature or it can be random? So in such case we might need to add column dynamically. So the thing is, here at the design time we won't know from beforehand what columns or name or what column fields we need to merge. Well, think no more. We will be creating an action of our own using our code stage. So this is a sample code that we are going to develop. So don't worry looking at this. We are going to discuss it in detail going further. So without any further ado, let's begin automating this interesting use case, shall we? So guys, I have opened up my Blueprism. So now what we are going to do is we are going to create a new business objects. So to create a new business object, what you have to first do is, so currently I have multiple things opened up. So I will just clear it. Go to your Studio tab that you will find at the left hand side of your screen. So here you have two things. So you have a process and then you have an object. So if I expand my objects, so there are multiple objects that I have created. So for our use case, we will be creating a new object. For me, I will be creating it under default. So I will be right clicking on default. So these are known as groups. So inside a group, you can create any objects or processes. So you can group them folder wise. So default is a default group that will be automatically created for you. So once I click on create object, I have to name my object. So let's say I will name something like a collection feature. So this is a new feature to my collection utility. So I will be clicking on next. You can write a description if you want. I will be leaving it blank for now, and then I'll be clicking on finish. So once I do this, so as you can see, I have my collection feature business object created. So I need to double click on this. So once I double click, as you can see, I have this opened up on my screen. So now before creating any code stage, so as you know, we have to create a code stage for this particular use case. So what we will do is we'll first go to the initialize tab, that is the default tab that will be opened up. We will be double clicking on this description stage, and here we need to go to the code options. So we will just check all the external references once. So we need system.data.dll, system.xml.dll, system.dll. So we will be adding one more namespace, that will be system.collections. Okay, so this is one more namespace that I have added for me. And once I have done that, the language will be Visual Basic. So we can choose a language also. You can choose C Sharp, you can use Visual C Sharp, and also you can use Visual Basic. So for us, I'll be using Visual Basic, and then I'll be clicking on OK. So once I do this, I have to go to action. Now this action, I will be first renaming this action. I will be renaming it to something like a add fields to collection. This is how it looks like. Okay, and you, if you want, you can just write some description also like this. Okay. Collection. So we usually write a very descriptive thing about, because this is something that is going to be a part of your BOD that will be created once we do this. So BOD means the business object design document. Okay. So okay. Now once we have done this, the next thing we have to do is we have to first create two collections. So one collection, I will name it as a input collection. So this collection will be something where I need to add my fields on. So this is I will name it as an input collection as of now. Let us leave it as a blank. I will copy this, I will paste it, Control C, Control V you can do, and I will name this one as a fields. And in fields, I will be providing here two values. So what will they be? What will they be? Let's see. So first thing will be the field name, like what particular column or field name do I want to add. So I can write a description, the field name to be added. Okay, and that will be this one. I will be just copying this everything. I will also make it as a text. The second thing will be the field type, the data type, like which type of column you want it to be, a string, or you want it to be an integer or a date, right? So I will be just naming it as something like a field type. So also we will be writing here one more instruction, that possible types are integer, decimal, we can also include a string, we can also include a boolean, and we will also include a date. So for these many data types, I am creating this particular code stage. Okay, so we can have any field that can be of an integer type, a decimal type, a string, a boolean, or a date. Okay, so this is how it looks like as of now. And if for now, what we will do is we will also set some initial values. Now this we do not need really. When we will be publishing this action, we won't need it, but for testing it right now, let's add some values. So I will add a simple thing, first name, and let the type be string. Next I can go for a marks. Let me put it something like integer. Next, what I can do is I can put something like let's say I can put something like a salary. Okay, the salary can be a decimal. Okay, and then I can put something like a eligibility. So this will be something like a boolean. Okay, so it necessarily not be different field types. You can also have multiple rows with the same field type. Just for testing our logic, I want to create a particular row. I want to create each record having a different field type. Okay, and at the very end, I think we are left with the date. So let's keep it as like a DOB, date of birth, and this will be date. So these are the field types and these are the field names that we have. Okay, so our fields collection has been defined, our input collection has been defined, and now what we will do is we will create one more collection, that will be the last collection, and we will name it as a output collection. Okay, so this is an output collection. I will make this one correction, name everything as a collection instead of collections. Okay, and what we will do is in the start stage, I have to now set it as an input parameter. Like whenever my process will be calling this particular action, my input should be that input collection, right? So I will be just adding an input parameter at the start stage, and here I will be dragging this input collection. So this, if the whatever input will be provided by the user, it will be stored in that variable or that collection space that we have created. So I will name it as a input collection, and I can name it as the input collection where the needs to be added. I can just write something like that. So what happens is whenever anyone is going to use your action, if you provide this description, he will be aware like what he needs to add. The second thing we need to add is that fields collection, right? So I can write like uh, the input field collection where the fields need to be added. Okay, where the field I will write it like this, where the field name and type needs to be defined. Okay. And if you want, you can also mention the possible values, but let's no, I won't do it for now. Okay, so now here I have mentioned both my input parameters. Now, as a very good practice, what you should always do is you should always enclose your input and output parameters within blocks for easy grouping. So I will create a block. I will name it as inputs. And what I will do, I will color this block with some different color, let's say like an orange. Okay, so this is how my input looks like. And also I will do the same for an output. So for output block, I will be again making it something like a green, and I will be naming it as outputs. Okay, and this is how your input and output block looks like. So just resize it somewhat. Yeah. So now we have done the changes for our input and output blocks. Now the very next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to create a code stage. So here I will drag a code stage. This is how this code stage looks like. Let me just do one more thing. So let me change the color for this. So I will change it to black. Okay, that is the default color. I will try to use a link, and I will just link these. Okay, so this is how my basically my total code will be looking like. This is the workflow we have created it. Now I will be going into the code. So go to the code stage, name it something like add fields to collection. Okay, so here I have to mention the inputs and outputs. So again, the same, these two will be again acting as the inputs. So whatever input has come from the process to the object, they will be stored in these two variables. And whatever is stored in these variables will be going to this code stage again, right? So even for code stage, I'll be creating two fields. One will be the input collection and one will be the fields. And I can give them like the collection type, and I can simply drag these values. Similarly, for output, I have to also add an output collection. So here is my output collection, and I will just drag in this output collection. So once I do all these things, now if you see, if I expand my code bar, if you see the parameters, they have all our parameters, okay, in and out. So now what we will be doing is, now we have to first see how we are going to add all these values. So the very first thing I will be doing is I have to now think how I can do it. Now, if you remember, I have to add columns in my input collection, because input collection will be having, it can have certain rows, it might not have any row at all, and but it will be having us, and it can also have some set of columns, it might not have any column at all, so anything is possible. So the thing is, this fields collection will never be empty, because fields is something that I will be provided by the user, because what fields we need to add. So we need to first iterate within this fields collection. So to iterate within this, what I will do is, for each row for each row I have to first define it as system dot data row. Okay, so this is what I have, and then I can write for each row as system as data row in, and in what I can write is fields, because fields is the name of the variable. And when I do this, I have to also give something like a for next. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay, and now what I have to do is, once I have started looping, like I've started moving inside this particular loop, I have to check like what can be the values. So first thing I have to do is I have to check the field type, like what type of field am I going to get. So what I will do is I will use if condition. If, let's say, if I would say CSTR, so I'll be converting my row into a string. Is row of, okay, now I have to provide the column name here. So the column name that I had was field type, if you remember. So if C of str, okay, once I've converted it, I will give equals, and here I have to give first condition for the string part, string, right? Then what I will do, then, okay, and here then I can give like a else if condition, because, and what I will be doing is I will be copying these whole code. So firstly we are checking what, for every field type we have to provide a different kind of a different type of command. So that is the reason why I am putting multiples if else if conditions. Okay, so here, like, let's say it's string, next time it will be a number, right? Next time it can be a decimal. Okay, and also one more thing also I have to do, I have to also give this else if. Yeah, once I have provided an else if, I have to give this for everything. Okay, so now we will again provide this else if somewhere down, and this time it can be for a boolean. Also we can have a else if for, let's say, I can say it can be also one more else if for a date. Okay, so I have like two numbers, one boolean, so we have like 5 cases that we can have, and at the very end, when I will be ending it, I have to use this end if. Okay, so this tells me like, okay, now once I have done everything, I have to now use end if. Now after using end if, now the thing is, now let's focus on the very first if part. So here I am saying if the field type dot equal string, then what I need to do. So it's a very simple thing. Okay, I will just give 2 spaces so that my code looks good. So now what I will be doing is I have to now add some columns to my input collection, right? So I will be writing input underscore collection. Why I'm writing input underscore collection? Because if you see here, whenever you give a space in, let's say, in your inputs, they automatically get replaced by a underscore. This is the Blueprism mechanism that happens. So to define this variable, I have to give it like this: input underscore collection, and then I will give dot columns dot add. This is the function that we have, and then here what I have to provide, I have to provide 2 things. I have to provide the name of the column and the type of the column. So to get the name of the column, the very simple thing is I will be using CSTR, and here I will be converting the column, the current, the which column I have to convert. So if you remember, in my fields column I had 2 things. One was the field type and one was the field name. So I am saying that if my current field type is string, then I have to add a column in my input collection where the name of that column should be the field name. So I will be writing here as field, and then I will be writing name. Okay, so once I write it here, so I have everything till CSSTR. Now here I have to provide the type of the column. So we have a function called as get type. In get type, I just need to simply write string. So string is a class. So it is saying that this field name, this particular input collection will have one column added. The name of the column would be the field name for the current iteration in the fields collection, and the data type will be string. So we are hard coding it because we can see it is, if it equals to string, then we have to give here get type string. Now you can guess the rest of the code. It is pretty much similar. Now what I will do is, I will again give two spaces. I will write here something like a get number, get integer, sorry. So you have something like an integer for numbers, okay? Similarly, I can do the same here also. And here I will be writing something like a decimal. And again, I have something similar here. And I will be writing something like a boolean. Okay, and similarly I have something here also. So here I can write, okay, just give me one backspace, and here I can write something like one more thing, that will be date. Okay, so here what we have done is, we have updated our input collection, but if you remember, our output collection has not been updated yet. So what we can do, we can simply write output collection equals input collection. So it simply means we are assigning the total value of input collection to our output collection. Once we do this, now the thing is, we will be having a collection. But guys, now the question here is, like, let's say there can be two scenarios. Either my input collection won't have any row in it, or my input collection can have, let's say, at least one row in that. Okay, so if it has, like, let's say, one row, there is not an issue, the same thing will be getting copied. But if your input collection does not have any row, then ideally what we should do is, we should add at least one blank row with our in our collection. So what we will be doing is, first we need to get the row count. Now to get the row count, I need an integer variable. So I will be defining one integer variable at the very top. I will be writing like dim. I will be naming it as row count as integer. Once I do this, I can go here below and I will be writing here as row count equals, and here I will be giving something like output collection dot rows dot count. So this will be returning me the total row count of the output collection. And after that, I will be just using one if query. If row count equals 0, it means if we don't have any row count, like if my collection is blank, in that case, what I need to do is, I simply need to add a row in that particular collection, right? So I will be writing output collection, and then I can write something like a dot rows dot add. So if I simply write this much, so my whole this thing will work. Okay, and now let me check the code once. Okay, so this thing helps you to identify any error. So in our case, we have one error. Let's see what the error is. Yeah, so it is asking me for a next. Okay, at line number 28. Yeah, one thing I did by mistake was to just add a for next. I should be only next. Now let's see how many more errors we have. So now here is only one error, that is saying is not of a collection type. Okay, line number 4, system.data.data. Okay. Yeah, so the error I think here is because here I'm saying system.data row, so it should be in an array of rows. Okay, and here this field is a data table, so I have to give dot rows. So once I give it here, yeah, so it means like I have to iterate within the array of rows, and in that array of rows I will be having each element as a data row. So data row is getting iterated in array of data rows. That's the reason why it was throwing an error. Now let me check the code. And yes, we don't have any issues anymore. So now let me click on OK. Let me try to do this with set next stage. So once I give it as a net set next stage, you will be seeing how it works. I will press on F10, and if I see here now in my output collection, you can see there is one row. So initially there was no row, so we added a blank row, and if you see now we have all our data. So our data is of flag type, eligibility, salary is of number, name is of text, date of birth is of date time. Now one more thing we can also test at the same time is, let's say if my collection already had some data. So let's say I had some data like let's assume something like a class, and class was of type text, let's say, and I can say the initial values I can set something like A. Okay, and then I can also add some more values like B, C, and something like a D. Okay, so now in your real-time scenarios also you will be getting something like this, like you will have some data populated from beginning, and then at all of a sudden in between your process you might need to add some columns. So this is where it comes into picture. So now let's see. So if you see right now, I have a particular input collection with 4 rows initially, and there's one field. Okay, and I have to add more 5 fields that I've already defined. Okay, so now if I click here, set as next stage, press F10, if you see now my output collection has 4 rows, and let's see what are they. So if you see the class is the same, A, B, C, D. We didn't add an extra row because we set out a condition. If you remember, that condition used to tell us like like if the row count is 0, then only we need to add an additional row. Because if we didn't add that, then in that case this whole thing would be blank, and ideally this can cause some error going ahead in future. So that's the reason why we put that condition. But if you see, even if there is some pre-populated data in your collection, still this logic works to add the rest of the columns. So this is something you can use freely in your processes. Okay, and that is how you will get. So you will basically get this output collection. And yeah, one thing we forgot to do was you also need to send this output collection back to the process. So I have to set out an output parameter. So in the end stage, if you go click on add, I can simply drag it here and I can write it as output collection. So this will give me the output collection, right? And here I can write something like the output collection to be returned. Okay. So now once you do this, you can simply now just simply publish this particular object. Now I can also do one more thing. Now I don't need to test anything. I can remove everything. Okay. So basically first I will remove all the rows, and then I will simply just remove the column. Okay. Okay. Just let me give me 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So now it was actually in runtime mode, so I would have not able to remove anything. I will be just selecting this, remove it. Okay, I don't have anything now. And for fields also, I don't need anything as of now in the initial values. So I will be removing everything. So you need something in these two are mandatory. Like your collection, that whatever collection you'll be sending out, it should always be in this type. like field name and field type, then only this particular action can be used. So now what I will be doing is I will simply I can simply now like save this and close this. Okay, and then let's go to the process studio to see if it's working or not. So now once I do this, I will simply be going here, and here what I can do, I have a test process already. Okay, let me go to the test process. Okay, so once I go to the test process, okay, I have some actions created here. I can create a new page, so you can create a new process also if you want. So I already had one process, so I will be just writing this testing features. Okay, let me see if it's working or not. So if you remember, we have published the action. So if you don't publish your action, you won't be able to see anything here. Okay, so once I drag the action stage, I can simply go here. I have to now search for my business object. So I think my business object was in a default folder. So if you see in my default folder, I have a collection feature, and there I have my business, I have my action, add fields to collection. Now here if you see, I have two parameters, input collection and fields, and then I have also one output. Okay, so let me automatically create an output collection for the input collections. Okay, so I will be just copy pasting it. I will name it as a fields. Now, if you remember, in my fields, there are two mandatory parameters that need to have the same name. So that will be field name, and one will be the field type. Okay, and once we have these things, what I can do, I can simply set it as a text. Simply set this one as a text. And here, let's say I need to add two things. Let's say I have to add a column called as A, and I have to add a column as a B. Let it be of number, and let this be of I would say a date. Okay, A and B. And by default in my output collection, let's say I have a couple of values already, C, D, E and F. Okay, and they can be of any type. Let me put them, most of them, as text. Okay, one I can put as a flag, and the another one also I can put it as a let me put it as a number again. Okay, so now I have something like this already. Okay, and if I want, I can also put some values here. So let me try to add some values. Okay, I can make it as a true, I can make it as a false, I can give some arbitrary numbers. In the text part, let me give something like like something like test, and here also I can put something like a test 1, and here I can put something like a test 2, here I can put something like a test 3. So I already have a pre-populated collection, let's say, whenever I'm going to this object. Okay, just remember, I will also name the object properly once, add fields to collection. Now what I can do, I can simply link this stage. If you press F3, that is the shortcut to get the link stage. Okay, so now what I will be doing is I will be setting up set the next stage here. I will be clicking on F10, and then again I will be clicking on F10. So it's stepping over. Let's see what happens. So now it has stepped over it. Now in my output collection, if I go and if I check, okay, there is some issue, I think. Let me just check. So there was a say V, 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 V. Okay. Okay. Now let me do one more thing. Let me create a separate collection. Let me name this one as a input collection. Okay. And let me name this one as an output collection. Okay. So by default, my output collection is nothing. It's an empty set, I can say, literally. Okay. Now let me try this. Okay. And also let me do one more thing here. Okay. So here the problem was I didn't link the fields.
So here if you see, I'm creating one more collection called as the input collection and the output collection. So my input collection would be the same thing. Here what I will be doing is I will be creating an output collection. I will be removing all my parameters. Okay, so this is, I have created an empty output collection. I created an input collection. Okay, and what I can do is here here in the input I will be giving it as input collections, and I am taking the value in output collections. Okay, let me now test it. F10, F10, yeah. Now if you see, now I have C, D, E, F, and then I have two more fields, A and B. So I have added all these values at runtime. So this is how you can use one collection, and then you can simply add the fields that are present in this collection, and the resultant would be something that will be present in your third collection. So this is a real-time use case that I wanted to show you. So let me know how you like this particular use case, and let me know if you are interested in knowing some more business objects using code stage. Thank you.